The new guy has only been on the job for 48 hours. His first task, third quarter earnings, they beat expectations. The stock is pretty much flat right now, slightly higher. The new guy is Tim Sloan. It's kind of the old guy because he was the CFO there. He did address some anxious investors who were trying to understand what the future holds after the John Stumpf era. However, some analysts believe Sloan is not the answer to the bank's problems. Joining us now is one of those analysts, top analyst from Rafferty Capital, Dick Bove, along with our very own Charlie Gasparino. And I do want to say about Dick, you always believed in Fox Business, and you were an original, too. You were always an original, so we thank you for believing in us. Thank you. Let's get to this Wells Fargo story. You don't think Tim Sloan's the guy. That's not the news. You say you have found something that you worry greatly about that's not out there right now. Please reveal it to our viewers.
Well, I think, you know, there have been 3 CFOs at Wells Fargo since 2011. And, you know, the first one of the 3 was a fellow named Howard Atkins. And Howard had been the CFO of the company for quite a while. And he actually was one of the best CFOs the company's ever had. He was fired on February 2nd, 2011. And the company refused to divulge the reason for firing him. And he, of course, has never spoken about it because I would assume he has an agreement with the company. There was a thought at the time that the reason why...
that's not this guy. Hold on. Can we not put Tim Sloan up? Let's talk about the other guy because I think this is crucial in the point that you're making here. Go on.
Okay. Okay, so the key point is that when Howard was fired, there was a, you know, when you fire a CFO of a company, there's a demand on the part of investors and everyone else to know why you fired him, and it was never explained. There is some speculation that at the time the reason why he was fired is because he didn't agree with the financials that were being presented by Wells Fargo. 6 days after he was fired, you know, Tim Sloan became the CFO, and he signed the, you know, the annual report and 10K indicating that it was valid numbers. So I think, you know, the time has come for Wells Fargo to reveal at least why Howard Atkins left the company, or for, if you will, one of these groups that are going to investigate the company to ask Howard, why did you leave, you know, in 2011, 6 days before the annual report came out.
So you say, Dick, just make sure I understand you right. You're saying that now that they're kind of opening up the hood, there is a good shot that they're going to likely go back to 2010 and say, okay, you know, Mr. Sloan, you know, what happened then with the obviously it would be a Sarbanes-Oxley violation that possible that we're talking about here, was as the reason why one guy signed it and another guy didn't. That's what we're getting at, correct?
Yeah, in other words, you know, Atkins, you know, was the guy who should have signed it because he had prepared all the information. Sloan had only been in the job for 6 days, and he signed it. How was he to know whether these numbers were correct or not? And
we should point out that we have calls into Wells Fargo, no comment. We actually called, tried to get in touch with Mr. Atkins, no comment. But it is a kind of an interesting scenario, what he's saying. Under Sarbanes-Oxley, as you know, CFOs have to sign off on their earnings.
And if they sign off knowing that there is material information that is not revealed, that, Dick, if I'm correct, could be problematic, and that particular information you say is what? That they knew there were these fake account scandals piling higher and deeper?
Well, actually, the issue at that point in time was not fake account scandals. It was whether the mortgage data being provided was correct, whether the company was accurately portraying what the losses were in the mortgage sector. And again, this is all speculation because neither the company nor Mr. Atkins has been willing to comment. But of course, the Justice Department steps in and asks Mr. Atkins to comment. He will have to reveal what happened in that period. And if he says that, in fact, he was uncomfortable with these numbers and therefore he would not be willing to sign off on the annual report, and again, this is 6 days before the annual report came out, then I think it's a very relevant piece of information.
Okay, so, but we're going back 6 years, and statute of limitation theoretically is 7, I guess, on white-collar crimes. But, you know, Dick, you know, I remember covering you during the financial crisis. You pretty much were pretty much on money, particularly with Bear Stearns. You said it early on that they had toxic stuff on their balance sheet. But let's be really fair here to Wells Fargo. Do you think Wells Fargo, and someone that you cover them, is that systemically corrupt that they fudged their numbers back then? I mean, that's a pretty harsh kind condemnation on it. And it's also a harsh condemnation on Mr. Sloan that Sloan, who he comes in after Atkins and signs the paper knowing that something's wrong. I mean, that's pretty damning stuff. I mean, what evidence do you have that they are that systemically corrupt, that even Mr. Sloan is that systemically corrupt?
I doubt that I'm going to stand up and say that Mr. Sloan is systemically corrupt or the company is systemically corrupt. What I am willing to tell you is that this is a piece of information which is relevant, and the reason why it's relevant is because if the numbers of Wells Fargo going back through this period are questionable, it should be revealed. In addition to which, you know, there has been a lot of talk about Mr. Sloan not being associated with any of the problems that came after 2011. Right. Yet he was the CFO of the company for 3.5 years.
There's a lot of overlap here with management. You're absolutely right about that. But I think we need to cut it here because we're getting a wrap. But, you know, you make a good point. And I tell you, Dick Bove usually has his finger on stuff.
Yeah,
but we should point out that
we did reach out to Wells Fargo.
But we should point out there's not a lot of evidence that he violated Sarbanes-Oxley. Dick, really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.